Okay.
I would never want to close up an access to the Gulf in and out. I don't think whatever the reason. I think we ought to open up Midnight Pass again.
Well, that, Longboat Key, the north end of Longboat Key, is one of the most intensely used, what they call recreation areas.
Yeah.
And all you have to do on the weekend is look at all the boats. And whether it's for, the commercial boats going in and out, or people just enjoying the, nice, clean Gulf waters coming into the bay, it's certainly a beautiful area.
Yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon when we went across the Longboat Key Bridge, and you had to look for a place to throw your anchor if you wanted it to get to the bottom. There's wall-to-wall boats.
Yeah, I would think 200 to 300 is a pretty good estimate of what's there on the busy weekend days. Just in that whole pass area.
Yeah, it's intensely saturated, that's for sure. Almost room for no more. I can remember when I was a kid, about 16, was hardly a Sunday went past when we'd arrive, but we wouldn't take a fishing boat and go down the Longboat Pass for a picnic. Water skiing with that old 10-mile-an-hour inboard fishing boat. Had a lot of good times down there.
Well, when we had the marina, I think, a boat with a 35, that was a big motor.
Yeah, it was.
And most boats went about 3 to 5 knots, that was about what the boat would go. So do you have any real early memories of Longboat Key, or any trips down? I mean, someone said there was a hotel down on the point where the Arvida property is that they used to go to, and then the hotel was burnt down in the early days.
No, I don't go back that far. Early years of World War II, as far back as I go. We were fortunate to be here. There was gasoline rationing, and of course commercial fishermen had access to all they wanted. What they have, R books, what they call them. They have different kind of books you get. Ration out the gasoline, you had to have stamps to buy your gasoline, and there was always plenty for the little boats to run back and forth with.
So what were some of the places, the fishing areas that you can remember on Longboat Key? I mean, if there's some names. I know there was one called the Farm.
Yeah. Went down there yesterday. I keep saying yesterday. There was a little bayou back in there, I swear. What is the name of that Arvida project down there where that marina is now?
Yeah, it's just called Bay Isles.
Bay Isles?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but they had boats in there. Looked like they were 80 feet long.
Right.
Anchored, tied up in there. Used to be a little bayou back in there. And on my birthday, every year, like I said every year now, I don't want this to get too intensive. There's 4 or 5 years in a row I would go down there and haul out that little bayou by myself.
Right.
I just wanted to say I did it, and catch 300-400 mullet, take about 500 yards of net to take it in, and I could do it by myself pretty easily. I went to that exact spot on the ground. I couldn't get there with my boat now, but the entrance into that little bayou is right where their dredge boat came through, right stream north end of the, I guess, northeast, west. I don't know which way the island run, but it was probably the northernmost end of
Bay Isles.
Bay Isles, right.
Well, do you know why they would have called that the Farm? Was it because There was a
used to be a farm there.
there was a farm there. That was why it was the
That's
farm.
called a farm.
Was that like Corey's Landing or do you?
Corey's Point, yeah,
Corey's Point, and that
just,
was the farm.
just back further to the west and north from the what we call the farm was Corey's Point.
And what about the kitchen? Now that was called the kitchen because everybody got food there, or?
It was a kitchen when I got here, so I
Right.
don't know, but yeah, it's always been there. Had a history.
So you would have, as a fisherman, you would have worked the Gulf and also worked the bay, and you would have hauled fish up on the Gulf shores, and
Right. The first time I went fishing in my life on a major fishing boat down here, we rode down to the Longboat Bass. We're going out. I was with Albert Few, and too rough to work the beach. I remember standing up on the bow of that old open seine boat and looking down the beach, and you see those rollers coming in there. Man, that was awesome for me. About 14 years old, 13, something like that. Tater says Albert Few was Taters, his nickname. Too rough to work the beach, boy, so we went back inside, went back through Longboat Pass, went up in Bishop's Bayou. Now, I'm not sure you're familiar with Bishop's Bayou. And he just took that in with his old seine, and we pulled that out, hauled it out. I don't know, caught about 100 pounds of sheephead and puppy drums, a few old mullet, sand brim. Just a regular seine haul.
well, the sheephead are running now. In the spring, that seems to be the best time. They're in row, and
Right.
there's big schools of them. I was throwing your cast net, and I caught, I don't know, about 10 each throw.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once a day I would throw the net, go out and throw them, and each time I got about 10.
Just blind throwing?
No, you can see them.
You see them?
Yeah, they're right there just doing their little mating ritual or whatever they're doing. They're pretty fish.
Yeah, I like them. They had a reputation for being hard to clean, get ready to cook. So we never did use them too much.
There were so many other fish.
Yeah.
So Wanda was telling me one time about a man that was raising pompano.
Yeah.
Do you remember that back in Cortez?
Yeah, it was right over there where the C&C Marina used to be. They have, what is that now?
Boat storage.
Boat storage, yeah, I forget, the Braden Boat Club or something like that.
Yeah, something.
And, but that was a natural pond there before they dug it out, and he put a fence across it and put some little pompano in there. And it never did work out. Somehow they washed their way out underneath it, got their little fins moving, and dredged them a channel. Didn't pan out. That one early, what do you call it, aquaculture
Right.
projects here in Cortez.
Well, I remember a story with Mom and Dad, and they used to come down from Tampa. They drive down, and they got off late, and they got here late, and so they decided they'd go catch some bait to catch some fish for dinner.
Yeah.
And they pulled the seine, and they got a whole seine load full of pompano, about 2-3 inches long.
Yeah, little bitty fellers.
And so they said that they were just so hungry, and it was late, and they're tired, and so they just cleaned those as best they could and fried them up, and they said they were some of the best fish they ever had in their whole life.
That's bet it was. Yeah. Pompano's good fish. That project didn't work out. I don't know. Can't recall anybody else experimenting with any other species, but I know that one didn't work out.
Well, most of that aquaculture stuff, it's sort of, people say that, feeding them purina fish food and then trying to keep all the herons and the other things away. It just is a real difficult project. It's always nice to have fish that are caught fresh from the Gulf.
I read a lot about aquaculture attempts and what's going on throughout the world. I don't know if they'll ever get it where they can make it a sustainable effort or not. Guess they'll keep trying as long as people want to eat the fish. I had a piece of smoked salmon last night, and I'm sure he come out of a pen. That's what I told somebody. Thank you for this piece of fish. You just get him out of the pen. He said, yeah, it just came out of the pen, but that smoked salmon's really good. If it is full of antibiotics, still good.
Well, I went out one time with Bill Mode out to Washington State, out around Seattle, and they had big fish farming things that were just floating out in the bay.
Yeah.
They had just nets, and they maintained the nets, and they just throw out purina fish food or whatever it is that they feed them, and but they were right out in the bay and natural water. But I just can't think that would be the same as them eating sardines or whatever they normally eat,
I don't guess I should make fun of it, but it doesn't seem like that's the best way to go.
And anytime you even, think of having a saltwater aquarium or anything, it is so complicated.
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing to keep those all those chemicals in balance and keep the fish happy. And well, so what about the future? What do you think? Or have you any ideas about the future? You think that things will persevere and be okay, or?
Well, I'm trying to compare the BP disaster in the Gulf this past spring. I don't see any long-term lasting effects from that. People started right at the first comparing it to the Valdez Exxon Alaska spill, but I rejected that right at the first. We got a whole set of different environment down here. We got warm water, we got different consistencies of oil, everything. It's all going to react differently. You can't make a comparison to that. And seems like it's turning out that way, but future, I think you better save up all these tapes you got here and play them back when you get tired. Get to your rocking chair, and then you'll know what the future was. It's going to be kind of hard to predict it. There will never be a commercial fishery like there was 15 years ago here in Cortez or in Florida, as a matter of fact, because Florida's not a state that's sympathetic to the commercial aspect, people making a living and having something to eat.
And there's been a lot of habitat destruction.
Yeah, there's been too much destruction. It's all been turned into playground, and that's what they want to use it for.
And, I try to explain to people that when I was a kid growing up on Longboat Key, that there were just vast wilderness areas that were just, you couldn't imagine those disappearing.